Welcome back to another episode of the The Irish Fan Podcast. My name is Danny, where I am not an Irish fan. I am the Irish fan. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hey, before we get into Arkansas, before we start talking college football, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that every time I record a podcast, you guys are notified. You can hear your boy talk Notre Dame sports, Notre Dame football, not Notre Dame sports, but Notre Dame football, and as it pertains to the rest of college football. 30,000-foot view. We're going to get into this Arkansas game. Look, this game, this game couldn't have come at a better time. And what I mean by that is, this is a very unique opponent. They have just enough talent to be able to show you if you've made any kind of improvement, or if you're still the same old, without it being 2020 Alabama. Essentially playing a team with too much talent to where now the game is unwinnable. If we were to play a team like that now, we would get crushed. That's just the truth. That's just where we're at as a football team this year. But this is not that team. This is an SEC team. They got some big dudes. I hear that they've got a defensive tackle who weighs 368 pounds. Show me a time in football history where having people on the field that big was a good idea. I just think football players after they're 330 pounds, that's like the weight limit for me when it comes to alignment of any sort, whether it's the defense or offense. You just get to a point where now you're too big and you're slow. But anyway, they've got some talent. They've got guys on the field that can test Notre Dame to be able to show if Notre Dame is improving and has improved this week, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. We're also going to talk about Arkansas and how they are still somehow, or Bobby Petrino is still employed by this university. I say still, but there's a big gap in between when he was fired to now. But the fact that he's there again, it just blows my mind. It's very rare. You don't see that in college football. You don't see that in sports in general. Once you're fired, that's it. And the chances of you getting hired back on anywhere, pick an industry is rare, especially when it's at cause, which Bobby Petrino most definitely was. We'll get into that, but I want to start first with Arkansas. Like I said, they're unique. This team is talented enough to challenge Notre Dame, but they're also talented enough to win. I'm going to get into my game prediction, but before I do, let me just say that this team, Arkansas's team, they have some weapons. Their quarterback, he's a big dude. I think his last name is Green. He's thrown for they played 4 games. He's thrown for 300. All you need to know. I'm not a stat guy. I'm not going to give you a stat breakdown. There's other podcasts you can listen to get all that. But what I do know, what I have seen is that they're 2-2. They started out 0-2. Or I'm sorry, they started out 2-0. And now they have lost 2 games in a row, one to Memphis and another one to Ole Miss, which is a good team. But they're giving up a lot of points, but they can score a lot of points too. Their starting quarterback, Green, he's a big dude. He has 300 yards passing in every single game except for one, and that was the Ole Miss game. That's not good news for Notre Dame football fans. That's the one area where not only are we bad, that's to say the least. That's putting it nicely. That's the one area where I have zero confidence that's going to step up and make some kind of huge improvement in 1 week, or 2 weeks in one game against a bad Purdue football team. And again, let me put this in perspective. Did we beat Purdue? Yes. Did we beat them soundly? Yes. Good things that you want. Our offense is improving. I think we're getting the gist of feed your dudes the football, and they're getting yards, they're getting scoring touchdowns, and that's a good thing. We're seeing that going forward. We have seen we played the best 2 teams already, and some people say that's a good thing. I don't think so, because the only other team that we're going to play this year that could give us any kind of street cred for the playoff is USC. Everyone else, the rest of the year, I don't care if Navy's is undefeated and ranked. I don't care. They're not good. That beating Navy is even if they're ranked, is never a good thing, because nobody cares about you beating Navy. And you say the same thing about our other opponents: Stanford, Syracuse, Boston College. They're trash. We should beat them. So again, the rest of the way, we face very few opponents like this, like Arkansas, that can give us some kind of street cred and a combination of street cred plus the ability to be able to see whether our team is kind of making an improvement. However, they have, yes, they're I don't want to say they're very talented, but they're very productive. And this specific quarterback can throw for a lot of yards. That scares me. That scares the crap out of me. I don't know how we're going to possibly stop that. And I heard it from the Irish Illustrated's podcast. You know, probably the best defense is to make sure you control the clock with your running backs and run up the field and kind of play the Navy game that Navy plays when they play Notre Dame. Control the clock, and maybe you'll end up with the ball at the end of the game to win the game. Personally, I hate that strategy because it's losing football, especially in the big time, when you get up into the upper echelons of college football. That's not winning football. If we want to make the playoff, which I certainly do, we have to win. We have to win out, which we certainly can. Even if we're winning every game 45-40, we can do that. We can do that. But it's not sustainable. Eventually, we'll get back to the playoff, play a team like Texas A&M or Miami or better, and get completely exposed and run out of the building. That is a movie I have seen over and over and over again as a Notre Dame football fan, and I don't want to see it anymore. And that's why we hired Marcus Freeman, which is why this season is getting me all riled up and has caused me to be a little bit more negative than I normally am. I view every football game as a coach would. You know, that sucks. We need to get better at that so that we can be great. However, I try to look at everything glass half empty as opposed to half full, and it's very, 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 very difficult to be able to do that with the kind of defense that we have on the field right now. I have no confidence in Chris Ash whatsoever. None. Zero. Zip. He has shown no ability to coach with very skilled, highly talented players. Now, I had a thought, and this is one of my overall 30,000 foot view thoughts, which is how this podcast is going to go. Maybe we started seeing a little cracks in the armor last year. Maybe everyone has all of the confidence in the world in Mike Mickens, that he is a great cornerbacks coach. And from what I've seen, he was a great cornerbacks coach when he was at Cincinnati with Sauce Gardner. He has coached great defensive backs here, Cam Hart, Benjamin Morrison, to name a few. Those guys were injury riddled. We weren't able to see Ben Morrison's complete maturity because he got injured. So we didn't really. He was a great cornerback. Don't get me wrong, but we weren't ready. We weren't able to see his full maturity. Is what I'm trying to say. He made great plays. He was a great cornerback, but to see this complete and overall rounded cornerback, we just weren't able to. We didn't see it because he got hurt against Louisville, and we didn't see him the rest of the season. I am hoping that what we're seeing right now is the fruit of what has kind of always been there in the first place. Is maybe they got lucky early on. Again, this is just a thought and a theory, so just hear me out. I am not saying this is the case, all right? I say this all the time. We're fans. We're mushrooms. We are fed crap, kept in the dark. We have nothing else other than coach speak and what we see on the field. That's all we have. We don't have intel. We listen to certain sites who have the intel, but then they give us all this regurgitated crap like our defensive line is actually really good and is going to be underrated this season, and turns out they actually are not good. So I'm just speculating before you go nuts. This is just a speculation. This is just a shot in the dark because that's all we can do as fans. So maybe there's cracks in the armor. Maybe Mike Mickens, maybe he's a good coach, but not a great one. I don't want to go there. I really don't. I'm glass half full, not empty. But we haven't seen the full maturity because something's happened. Cam Hart's the same way. He got a lot better when Mike Mickens came on board, but he was injury riddled his entire career as well. Then Benjamin Morrison comes on the scene. He has a great freshman and sophomore season, but there was times when he was exposed, and then he got hurt his junior year, and that was it. He was gone. So, what are we seeing? What are we seeing right now? Because right now, what we're seeing is crap. It's dog crap. It's not good. Everyone's saying, well, I refuse to believe that Mike Mickens forgot how to coach defensive backs. Well, guys, ask yourself the question, look yourself in the mirror, and maybe the answer is the one that you think it is, or maybe it's not. I don't know, but ask yourself, can he actually coach? Can he? Carson Hobbs is awful. Maybe he'll make a huge leap. He's only a sophomore, so maybe he'll make this huge leap and be a lockdown corner or a nickelback when by the time he's a fifth year, like Tariq Bracy. I mean, that kid got torched early on in his career. I did not want him anywhere near the field. By the time he was a fifth year, he was a lockdown nickel, and he was one of our best defensive players. Maybe that will be the course of Carson Hobbs. But right now, that kid shouldn't be anything. He shouldn't be higher than anything on third string, and an emergency cornerback, because he can't cover anyone. Every big time touchdown or most of the big time scoring touchdowns that we've had this year have been on him or around him. Then after that, we have true freshmen. So it's hard to gauge. Leonard Moore, now he's hurt, our best cornerback. And he's questionable against Arkansas. He's amazing. He had a great season last year. He came in for Benjamin Morrison and filled right in. I mean, he did. He was great. But that's hard. It's hard to say this guy's a good coach because this true freshman came in and just completely dominated and left off right where Benjamin Morrison was and maybe played it even a little bit better. It's hard to say that because true freshmen that come in don't really have that impression of whatever that coach is teaching quite yet. It's not until either mid to late sophomore year and later on when you actually see coaching style take effect with any player. And you can say that across the board with any coach. Any position group, offensive line, wide receiver, you name it. Guys come in and they might do some things here and there because they're just talented guys. Take Tobias Merriweather, for example. Everyone that I heard say that he was just going to be the next great Notre Dame wide receiver. He was big-bodied, 6'4", 195 pounds. He was fast. He could catch all the things. He comes in in his freshman year. He has one touchdown grab. It was an awesome catch, and we all think that he's going to be the next great Notre Dame wide receiver. Maybe Mike Brown was just that bad. I don't know. But look at his career trajectory. I don't even know where he's playing right now. I think he's playing at Utah. Maybe is it Utah? He's on his third school now. I don't think that's a coincidence. Anyway, I'm getting off track with wide receivers. We're talking about Mike Mickens because that's the real problem with Notre Dame football is the secondary. So are we seeing cracks in the armor? Are we seeing maybe an inability or maybe an ability that isn't as good as we thought it was? Maybe he's just a good coach, not a great one. I'm just asking the question. I'm not necessarily going there. From what I've seen from Chris Ash so far, is right on par with everything that we heard in the offseason. There's several sites that reported that this hire was at best head scratching, if not all out surprising. At worst, people were threatening to transfer. There were kids that didn't want to play for this guy. I mean, that his previous places of employ. I mean, the guy got fired. He didn't leave his previous position. He got fired. And his one claim to fame, everything that Kirk Herbstreit and Urban Meyer was saying about Chris Ash and about in the beginning of the season was Urban Meyer's lone season that he had Chris Ash as the defensive coordinator, and they won a national championship with that team in, I think, 2014. That's his claim to fame. Other than that, he's been very underwhelming, very average at best. And so that hire was very head-scratching, to say the least. And what I've seen, we played we played 3 football games, and it hasn't been defense. When we're thinking 2007 and 2016 style defenses, that's called not defense. Like, that's not a defense that anybody wants for any big time program in the history of football. Nobody wants that, and that's what we're seeing. Well, it's good, we just, let's get coach speak. We just I understand that the level of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, which Marcus Freeman said this week. But coach, you are doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you say you understand it, great, then do something different. Like I said, that's all we got. We're fans, and all we have is what we see on the field, and it's trash. It's garbage. So I have no faith in Chris Ash. I have no faith that he's going to right this ship, and it's going to have to be Marcus Freeman. Now, here's the thing. To all the people who want Chris Ash fired, look, it's always been Marcus Freeman. Whether it's Mike Mickens and is he a good coach or not, I think he is. So again, before you freak out and leave comments, which I doubt you will, but I think Mike Mickens can coach. I think he's a really good coach. And Chris Ash, whether he was great or not, the answer has always been Marcus Freeman. And here is the crux of this whole conversation. Can Marcus Freeman do the hard thing and make an in-season adjustment? It's hard to do that. I know it is. But great coaches are able to do it and then have success doing it. I.e. Urban Meyer was good at doing as a great coach too, as much as I'm not a huge fan of his, but he's a good coach. But Nick Saban, there's a lot, people don't know. People are just like, well, the guy coaches, he's been able to, if Notre Dame had number 1 recruiting classes six years in a row, number 2 recruiting classes 6 years in a row, that coach would be able to do whatever, No. I disagree with that. Talent will only get you so far. If there's anything Urban Meyer ever said that I actually agree with, this is one of his quotes. Talent will get you 8 wins. Culture will get you 10 wins. Good coaching will get you 11 wins, but all 3 combined will get you a national championship. I fully believe that. I'm fully on board with that. And any great team, any team that you've seen win national championships, especially coached by Nick Saban, they weren't unbeatable. He only had 2 out of his 7 national championships between LSU and the 6 that he had at Alabama. Only 2 were undefeated, and one of those was 2020, a very shortened 2020 season, when they beat us in the playoff, smoked us in the playoff. So every one of those teams that he coached were beatable teams. But he was able to make some kind of in-season, in-game adjustment. I mean, do you remember the stones that it would take to bench Jalen Hurts? Look at the career that guy's having in the NFL right now. You bench that guy and put in a true freshman when the game is on the line and it pays off? I mean, stones. And great coaches are able to identify that and do it. Coach Freeman, are you able to do that? Are you able to make those identifications and do it? I'm not saying fire Chris Ash. That's unrealistic. I'm a realist, if nothing else. Chris Ash is not going to get fired unless we lose the next 2 games. If we lose, even if we lose Saturday, I could see that being contemplated. And then certainly if we lost to Boise State at home, that it would be adios muchachos. Chris Ash would be fired. He would be fired for sure. But I don't want that to happen. I want Notre Dame to win both of those games. I want them to win every single game, and I want them to win a national championship. And I don't care if Chris Ash is the defensive coordinator while we do that. Marcus Freeman's the head coach, and he's the one that makes these decisions ultimately. And what he needs to do is make a hard in-season adjustment. Coach, screw the zone unless it really, really calls for it, and play the style of defense that we've been playing for the last 4 years, which is ball hawking, swarming, man coverage, blitzing defense. Get after the quarterback. I don't care how you have to do it. Get after the quarterback, pressure the quarterback, make him make mistakes. We haven't been doing that for the last 3 games. We didn't really do it against Ohio State. And this is one of the reasons why I made the Mike Mickens thing, the Mike Mickens question. Is I don't know if you guys paid attention, but we got smoked by USC in the secondary. That was real. I mean, that game was like, okay, what's going on here? And that was with Xavier Watts, who made the game winning, or the game sealing, I should say, play at the end of the game. Christian Gray in that game, that was his first game that he got really exposed, and everyone was kind of scratching their heads. He made a great play in that game too, to be able to kind of go, okay, this kid, he's not as bad as it looks, but he got exposed in that game. Then he got exposed against Penn State. Same thing. He makes a great play at the end of the game, so it's like you've totally redeemed yourself, but you start seeing a little bit of these cracks. Everyone makes bad plays, including Leonard Moore, but not nearly as many. And coaches see film, and they see, hey, this guy Christian Gray, let's keep going after him because he's having a rough go of it. And so far, you look at this season, and all the touchdowns are going to guys like Carson Hobbs, Christian Gray, and true freshmen. They're pretty much staying away from Leonard Moore. The one touchdown that kind of went over Leonard Moore was Chris Daniels in Miami, who made a circus ridiculous catch that any other sees 9 times out of 10 that's an interception or an incomplete pass. So when you throw out Leonard Moore, it's got to be a really well designed and executed play, and it can happen, of course, but it's 9 times out of 10 you're going to get a good defensive play by Leonard Moore. When you go after these other guys, they're getting exposed. So that's just what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing on the field. These guys are getting exposed. I started seeing this last year. Christian Gray was getting exposed and got exposed way too much, and something happened. I don't know what it was. Maybe he's injured. Maybe he's been injured. He's got such a bad shoulder, just like Cam Hart. Like if Cam Hart was healthy, I think he would have been a lot better. I think it's the same thing. Same thing with Christian Gray. The guy has 2 left feet for hands. He made a great play against USC. I know, but other than that, and a great play against Penn State. Yes, those were both game-sealing, game-changing plays. I don't want to take that away from him, but they were the only ones. He had plenty of other opportunities early on in that season to have some interceptions. Some were right in his hands that he dropped, and he's had a couple of this year too. Interception drops. We can't have that. We got to come up with those. So I don't have confidence and certainly in Chris Ash. This is all on Marcus Freeman. And coach, you need to make a hard decision. You need to change his philosophy. If you want to go to a more zone style, you clearly need a lot longer than this one season, or this off season that you had. It shouldn't have been all at once. It should have been more incrementally. That's how, hindsight's always 20/20. I heard somebody else from a podcast say, if we just convert one of those 4th down stops against Miami, chances are we win that game. If we just get one knockdown pass against Texas A&M, we win that game, and we're at least 2-1, if not 3-0. I sigh every time I hear things like that. We didn't do any of those things. We lost. We were 0-2 and we lost. You know what happens when you play winning football? You win the games. You don't play winning football and lose. Guess what that's called? Losing. It's just called losing. So I want to play winning football, and you have to make hard decisions sometimes, and you've got to be able to change it. And I've already mentioned what my solution would be. I think at the end of the season, you're going to have to really consider your defensive coaching staff. Yep, you are. And what you cannot do, and I've already given a whole list of cannots. I did that in my first podcast of the season, and we've already violated like half of them, if not all of them. We've already done exactly all the cannots that I said we couldn't do, and we've done them. So what you can't do is have a really bad season or a lackluster season and continue with the coaching staff that you have. You have to make some changes at the end of the season. So That's realistic. That is realistic. I don't think anyone's going to miss Chris Ash. From what I'm hearing from the rumor mill, he's not even that well of a liked coach. So I'm not. I wouldn't feel bad at all if he were let go. But again, I'm a realist. Coach Freeman isn't going to do that unless we lose the next 2 games, and that's just that. That's just how it is. So prediction. That I'm gonna get out of here. Man, this entire week, like I said, this is such a unique opponent. Bobby Petrino, I said I'd get into him a little bit. He's the wild card here. This dude is crazy. His first tenure at Arkansas was nuts. If he wasn't nuts, they probably would have turned out to be a really good SEC football team. But he completely imploded that program and his life. And I won't get too much into that. I don't want to judge the man too much. But let's just say let's leave his personal life out of it. He's a good football coach. Regardless of what you think, he knows the X's and O's. Especially on offense, he's a very good offensive coordinator. He's a very good offensive coordinator and a very good play caller. With the game film that he has seen with Notre Dame and with the kind of a quarterback that he has at Arkansas, he is probably licking his chops. So I keep going back and forth to really picking Arkansas, to picking Notre Dame, to picking Arkansas. I can't pick Arkansas because if there's any team that we play this year whose defense is almost not as good as ours, it's Arkansas, who has played way less talent than we have. So far, they're one talented. The one game they played that had of any kind of substance was Ole Miss, and they lost that game. Still, they were still able to score points and move the football against a good team. So they're going to score points against us because we can't stop them. We can't do it. We haven't stopped anybody, including Purdue. So Purdue. Fine. But they scored 30 points. 7 of that was in the garbage time. Okay, fine. They had 23 points. 23 points. Purdue had 23 points against our first team defense. All right. I gotta believe Arkansas can score at least 24. I gotta believe that. Given the fact that they have a quarterback who's better than Brown for Purdue, I'm going to give them another touchdown. So that's 30 points. And then the fact that we just can't catch a cold. We cannot stop any kind of air attack. We're all over the place. We don't know what we're doing. I need to see it. It's proved me wrong time. Please prove me wrong. Please make me glass half empty again. Please, I'm begging you. Please, to do this. But I'm going to predict this until I see otherwise. Because we can't stop anybody, I'm going to give them another touchdown. So I'm going to, let's say 36 points for the over-under, or for Arkansas. Can Notre Dame score more than that against this Arkansas team? Yes. And ultimately that is why I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win. 42-36 is my final score prediction, which it pains me to do that because I can't believe, at least in the Van Gorder years, you had a series of regressions every single year to give you no faith by year 3 when he actually got fired and we lost to Duke, and that was a complete and total debacle of a season that Kelly allowed. But at least you had that series of, that slow regression of letdown, where now we just went from playing elite top 5 defense to one off season playing that 2016 level of defense. That is coaching. That's called coaching. We have the talent. You can make arguments that 2016 team had talent too. They were just coached bad, and they did. But that team didn't have as much talent as this team does. So, that's it. That's my prediction. Notre Dame 42, Arkansas 36. Again, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell every time I post an episode. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I do hope we see an Irish victory. I think we will at the end of the day. If we don't, well, it'll be a very different podcast that we have. That glass half empty, that's going to be different next podcast. So until then, we'll see you. I love you guys, and go Irish.